What's the deal, my people? You know this is Don Tony Teflon, Lady LMR, and this is the sexiest podcast in the world, the Lady and the Dom podcast. Back at you, 2020. And as always, LMR, my beautiful co-host, how are you?
Tony, I am great. I'm amazing. Amazing time to be here. 2020, here I come.
We are here in 2020 dropping this for you right now, and this is going to be about the Netflix series about Aaron Hernandez. Now we're going to talk about this Aaron Hernandez series, break it down, and then give you our evaluations of exactly what we think happened in this case with Aaron Hernandez. How did you like it, first off, LMR, after watching it? What did you feel? You think it was good, or you think they could have did a better job on it?
I enjoyed it. They did very much. It was very in depth. I didn't expect it to be like that. I expected something different. I don't even know what I wanted or what I thought it would be. I liked it. I did not follow the case before, so I enjoyed it, and I was just clicking through them. There are a couple episodes of it, and I think 3, if I'm not mistaken. And I enjoyed all of them. I like the way they divided it all as well.
Yeah, I think that they did a really good job on it. I remember the case when it first came out years ago, but I forgot all about it until they just did this. But basically, we're going to go over this whole situation and see exactly how we have someone who was so gifted, so talented. And the words that come to mind when I think about this is from the movie Bronx Tale. And he says, there's nothing worse than wasted talent. That's what it seems to me. His life became this wasted talent. And we're going to try to break down the reason why he turned into this person that he turned into. First, we're going to start with the young Aaron Hernandez and see if we can figure out exactly if there were signs while he was young to what he would become. Now, LMR, what is your profession, actually?
I am a psychologist.
Okay, so we have a professional here breaking this down with us, and I am just giving my common street sense and street knowledge on this whole situation of gangsterdom. All right. So.
That was so cute. I love it. I want to hear that. I want to hear that opinion.
All right. So when you seen him when he was young, when they talked about when he was young, did you see any signs or anything that they showed in the show that would make you think that he would become the person that he became?
You know, it's funny when people think going back, like, oh, was there anything in his life? Did something happen? Were there any signs? It's the entirety of his lifetime. There were people might be predisposed towards certain things, but then it's not just nature, it's also nurture. And in his environments, it seemed like a perfect thing on the outside, perfect family, but it was not. There was a lot of issues when you look at it from a perspective of an outsider. Mother and father and the dominance, and he was the king. His father was the king over there. So that was what he grew up in that kind of environment. On the outside, perfect. Being inside, not so great.
Yeah, so when I look at him when he was young, it seemed like he had everything going for him. He's a star football player from the beginning of his life. He's always been good. It's not like he was a scrub and he had to work his way up. It seemed like he was just straight gifted from the beginning, and he always was the star. But it also seems like even though he was the star, when you look at it, it didn't seem like the typical star athlete that we see, like the star athlete that gets all the girls, the star athlete that has all the friends. He did seem kind of secluded and just chilling with his little clique. He did not get a lot of girls, you know, and we'll talk about that later. That guy explains that he didn't get a lot of girls, even though he was the star athlete. And then he had to live up to his father's expectations. So let's go into his father and try to break down his father. Now, his father, as you said, was known as the king. His father was basically living through his son. I would say that he was trying to get his dreams fulfilled through Aaron Hernandez. And that had to be a tremendous amount of pressure for Aaron. So what did you, breaking down his father, what did you see about his father?
Again, parents trying to live through their children, whatever parents either didn't accomplish. And in his case, in his father's case, he did accomplish a lot because they were however they would call the family, the football family, or however they called them, because they were already established. They had a reputation. They were called a family that nobody messed with. And living up to that, I'm assuming the father didn't want at that moment to have anybody tarnish their name or make anything. the father already reached what needed to be reached. Now the son had to live up to it. So a lot of pressure on the entire family, and a lot of pressure to perform and be at the standard that was called norm back then.
Now, you always see, a lot of times you will see fathers that were successful, how they push their children to be successful because they feel like this is what they have to do to push them to get them to that point. I think that's also important to say that they were really, from what I'm seeing, not that many Latino families out there, right? So for him to say that this was the family that no one messed with, for them to get to that point to be known as that, usually someone had to mess with you and then you became that. So I bet you that growing up where he did grow up, there was a lot of racism, because I know that area, and there's definitely racism there now. So back then there must have been a lot, and his father most likely dealt with that, physically, and was, a tough guy. So I think that Aaron had to try to live up to that standard, not only just the football standard, but the standard of being, no one's going to mess with me. No one, I'm the tough guy. I am the king's son. I'm the prince, basically. And I think that also has some effects of what happened to him later on in life, and why he acted the way he did later on in life.
Exactly. It has to be established. And later on, they mention whoever, let's say, in prison, there's this, I guess, authority. You have to challenge whoever is the toughest. Maybe that was the case in their family as well. They had to establish themselves not only through what they showed in sports, but also they must have something must have surfaced to make them be like that, to make them be on top.
Yeah, because a lot of times in life, you walk the path of the person that was there before you, and people just expect you to be what the person was before you. If you have a brother or a father who was great in the sport and they left those footprints down, you're expected to put your feet in those footprints. You see that all the time with people who are great actors or people who are great dancers, and they think automatically, oh, your dad could dance, you must be a great dancer too. If you're a singer, oh, your mom could sing, you must be a great singer too. Like, it's automatically established. And it's got to be a lot of pressure. Like, you could look at, Michael Jordan, who's probably the greatest basketball player of all time. His son played basketball, but his son wasn't really that good. I mean, he was decent, but he wasn't that good, and you would think probably, oh, it's Michael Jordan's son, he's got to be just as good as his father. That doesn't happen all the time. That's a rarity when that happens. And like, if you look at Barry Bonds and not Barry, well, you could put in there too because his father, but Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr., the son turned out to be a better baseball player than the father. But that doesn't always happen all the time. That's a very rare situation for that to actually happen. But
exactly.
I think you get a lot of pressure dealing with that, and I think he had a lot of pressure on him from being since young. And I also want to say that his dad was not very receptive to homosexuals, it seems like, in this thing. And I think that we're going to get into that when we get to Aaron Hernandez, but I think that played a major key into how he was feeling about himself later on. Let's go right into the mother, because the mother seems to be a little problematic. And you see Aaron Hernandez, he talks about how his mom ruined his life. Now, what do you see about this, how his mother affected his life?
So at first, again, it's a great, well, not a show, it's a couple of episodes of it to watch, because they don't just say from here to here. They develop the story of that mother. They show how she was treated by her husband. There was an incident of when she was, I think she was angry after him coming back somewhere. So we already see that there is something wrong over there. Him staying out late, doing stuff he's not supposed to apparently do, her getting angry, throwing something at him getting angry at her for throwing stuff at him, her I think pushing her, she loses consciousness. So this is kind of a thing that he grew up in. That's an environment. So mother already not too happy. But again, you are a woman married to this person who is the king, who is king over there. So what are you going to say? Women would love to be in her shoes, apparently, or, in her bed instead of her, probably. So she's stuck in a way. But she's kind of happy because this is a prestigious place to be in, that household. But again, pressure builds father dies, or her husband dies unexpectedly, shock to everybody, to him, to Aaron, and within a couple months after that, the mother gets into a relationship, or maybe she was already in that relationship, but she officially, in a way, kind of is in a relationship with, I think, his cousin, or Aaron's cousin's husband. And that's a shock for a kid. What was he, like 17, 16? I'm not sure how old he was when Aaron was when his father died. But you see the death of your father. 3 months later, your mom is with a family's man, somebody else is from the family. That's a huge shock. Yes, she has a right to her own life. However, there's also not just, your actions are not just for yourself. Actually, your actions affect everybody else. That's why some people live lives that they don't want to, because there's somebody else to think about. And she, I guess, did not think as hard about her actions, because those actions affected Aaron.
Yeah, going back to, so I think the mom was kind of, she's not innocent, but they both were prisoners of this guy. And this guy, when you're dealing with him, known as the king or whatever, he fought to get to get the reputation he got in his neighborhood. He still was living on old success. It didn't seem like he had any new things for him to be known for. So he had no choice but to relive those glory days. You know, I say it all the time, like you see women, mostly women do this. You know, guys don't, but some guys do it too. But you see them, and they have this hairstyle, and they'll have this hairstyle from the 80s, and it'll be, now it's 2020, they still got the same hairstyle. And I think they keep these hairstyles because it reminds them of a time in their life that they were most likely the happiest, that they had some success, and that hairstyle reminds them of that. And I believe that's what's going on with Aaron Hernandez. You see guys who are high school football stars, and they still wear their high school football jacket even when they're old, you know, because that's what they're known for. So in this little town, I'm sure that there were people out there who still remembered him for, oh, I remember when you scored that touchdown and you did this. And there's still a lot of groupies, and he thought he was the man back then, and he was able to get a lot of girls back then, and he never grew up past that. So we still felt, in order to maintain that, I still got to go out and cheat on my wife. I still got to go out and have all these women, because if I don't do that, then I'm no longer the king. I am just a regular person who has nothing. And that's what he had to, that's why he did all this thing. Instead of just being like, all right, that was a time in my life, let's put it in the past where it was. Good to reminisce on it, but I am more than that. I'm something else. I am way beyond that. And I think that was what caused the problems in his marriage, to go out there and cheat. Now, I'm not saying she's not innocent at all. Not at all. Because we see later on, she's not that good of a lady. Her going out there, not whether she was having an affair with this guy before his father died, we don't know. But I could see her doing that, because you know he was definitely having an affair with people. He was definitely out there. And everybody wants to feel love, right? Everybody. And she wasn't a bad looking woman back then. Not at all, you know? So I could see her probably having an affair while this guy was dead, was still alive. Now, the death of Aaron's father, I think, is one of the big things. There's two things. I think the death of his father and then his mom getting with this guy really triggered him. I think because his father, it seemed like, kept him in line. It seemed like he had to live up to his father's standing. He was afraid of his father, it seemed like. Even though he was grown, he still was afraid of his father's reaction, what his father thought about him. He really cared about that. And I do believe that his father never passed away, things would have been different in his life. But I do believe that the death of the father really triggered something. So as a psychiatrist, can you please talk about, I know I'm sure people know, but what it really means when your father passes away, how that devastates a young man.
Yeah, and especially not just a father passing away, but this father, this particular man, he was the one who was in control. Usually when there's a family dynamic, when there's a family dynamic with mother and father, they're ideally the best thing for people is to kind of have a balance, not to be too much on one side, not to be too much on the other side, but to have both kind of equal. So for example, in his case, the father was, I'm assuming strict, and whatever he said was the law. And I don't want to say it, but in a way, he kept them in check. He kept them in line. When that, and I'm not sure if he didn't allow his wife to take a responsibility for some of those things, or she didn't want to. She maybe just dumped everything on him, or maybe he didn't let her be a part of, being the authority in the family for young Aaron. When that key part of somebody's life, in Aaron's life, that control in his life goes away, that link disappears. The only thing that's left is the mother, who was, in a way, sad to say, in their case, I'm assuming, and looking at what they showed, was in the same line as the son. That should never be the case. The mother should never, or other way, that can be the mother that can be controlling, and the father can be, just like kind of laying low. The father was gone, and son and mother were left, but mother was not above with authority. From what I saw, it was the father. So it's a huge hit. There's no order. For so many years, he is the law, and now the law is gone. So the mother, well, what is she going to do? First of all, there's nobody to tell her what to do, how to do it, and the same thing with the son. So usually in regular families that I see around, the father is usually the authority figure. That's the balance that family has. And for a father not to be there, it's a huge thing for any children, but for sons especially, families growing up without fathers, or families growing up without mothers, there's always something missing. Unless there's a different structure unless there are uncles and aunts who can fill it, and it's fine as long as there is both females and males over there to show the example. But I'm not sure if Aaron had another male figure in his life who would fill that void. I don't think he did.
Yeah, I think that, as you said, they were both basically institutionalized from this guy. He's basically like the jail warden, and they were both kind of like in prison while he was alive. And when he died, the shackles didn't just come off of Aaron, it also came off the mother. So when he died, they both were free. Now, a lot of times when you're institutionalized and you're in prison or something like that, and you've been in there for such a long time, you don't know how to get out. You just start losing your mind. You get this freedom, and you don't know what to do with this freedom because you've been so used to everything being a certain way. It's hard for you to express yourself. So it could have been, from what we've seen with her, it didn't seem like she was, she had anything else going for her. A job, or you don't hear anything like that about her, like she had these things going for herself. So without this structure and this man, she may have been like, now it's my time to spread my wings. But at the same time she's spreading her wings, her son is coping with the death of his father, and he's trying to spread his wings. And as you said, it didn't seem to be like she was above the son. It seemed like she was his friend, on the level of a friend, not on the level as a mother. And I used to tell my daughters this all the time: I'm not your friend. I'll be friendly to you, but I'm not your buddy. I'm your parent. And I will say things to you, and I think, like, being a parent to me is allowing your kid, being strong enough to have your kid say, I hate you, and run away. I'll take you saying that you hate me and running away. I'm strong enough to deal with that, so that later on in life, you could say, this is why my father did this and didn't let me do that. I'm not your friend who's just going to agree with you with everything and try to get down with you and try to be cool with you or anything like that. And I think that is the level that she became. She started thinking about herself. What am I going to do with my life, instead of worrying about what's going to happen to my son's life? And while she was off doing her thing is when Aaron really needed her to be there, when he was trying to figure out what he was going to do.
Exactly.
So she should have stepped up her game and became a more authoritative figure. But instead of being that, it seemed like she went out there to live her life because she was chained up and shackled by this man too, and under his weight of this man. So
exactly,
I think that's what happened there. So let's deal with a little bit after that. You see that Aaron's in high school. We get the first signs of him having homosexual relationships with the quarterback of the team. And the guy says that the reason why they did that was not that they enjoyed it, I'm sure, but that they didn't get a lot of girls. They was always just them two hanging out. And so how would be the pressure of someone, especially back then, who I don't know if we can call him gay, but we could definitely call him bisexual. How would that pressure weigh in on somebody of getting the dread of being caught, especially when your father is the way your father was?
Yeah, so when I forgot his name, his friend's name from back then, but when he that was his friend, I guess from his childhood, because he mentioned it was not just somebody he met somewhere, it was somebody he was kind of almost raised next to. When he was talking about their relationship, he mentioned that yeah, there were not a lot of girls in the after, I guess, activities after the games or after the when they were training. So you only were around guys. So he mentioned that. I'm not sure what effect it had on them wanting to explore whatever, happens. And he did mention that at first they were just doing it because it was fun. It was something that they enjoyed and it was just fun. But yet he also mentioned that there was so much fear in him, thinking like, what happens? Like, did anybody see us? Is anybody suspecting anything? So much fear. Just imagine you're living life just looking behind your shoulder all the time, that if somebody saw what you just did, and that puts a lot of shame on you, that puts a lot of doubts about if what you're doing is right or wrong. In their mind, it must have been something wrong because they were petrified,
Yeah, I
thinking
think.
if they're going to be discovered.
Yeah, I also think that though they thought it was something wrong, I think it's most likely something that they enjoyed doing it, so they
Mm-hmm.
wanted to continue doing it. It wasn't like they did it and then was like,
Yep.
I don't know, it's never happened to me.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, if you're with some guy, your friend or whatever like that, and then you do something, and maybe like, oh, that wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be a drunk. You make it so, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But this wasn't that. This was they
Mm-hmm.
did it. They enjoyed doing it. So
Yes.
they did it over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And the fear was them being outed more. How would everyone else look at us? How would
Exactly.
the other people view us? Are we going to lose our status? Are people going to make
Mm-hmm.
fun of us? It was more of a fear of that than actually doing the act, because they were proud of doing it. They didn't care about doing the act.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have done it so many times.
Yep.
You know what I
And they
mean?
continued. They said that they continued it throughout their life. I'm not sure when was the stopping point, because it ended at some point. I'm assuming it must have ended, but they did not say it ended. So we don't
Mm.
know how long they've been. I mean, we kind of see when they started, because he mentioned it when they were young, but then he never said what that they stopped. But looking back, he did say that his friend, he did say that looking from a perspective of time, they were in a relationship. And back then they did not think of it as a relationship. They just they thought of it as something they did from time to time, and they had a mutual agreement and they both enjoyed it. But looking at perspective of time, he would call it a relationship at this moment.
Yeah, and these are not just regular. These are football players supposed to be really tough guys. You know, your father was the king, and now you're here. I don't know what happened in the relationship, if you were the top or the bottom, and you switched it around or anything else like that. But this is something that your father would not approve of.
Mm-hmm.
From the comments they gave, right? This is something that your father would look down upon, and society would look down upon you, make fun of you. And I really think that that is the key thing. His shame of his sexuality that made him into the later on killer that he became. I think him not being able to cope with that is really what got set him off, because after that we see that he goes off to college. Now he's very successful in high school. He goes off to college, and now he's by himself, and he's younger. He's very young around all these other men who are just basically men. He's down at 18, 19. These guys are in their 20s. They're out at the bar drinking. And I
Yes.
think that he was trying to fit in with them so bad, because they were so much younger, and he was trying to explore himself. And that's when he started getting tattoos on his arm and start, fleshing himself out, becoming the person. But still, I think in the back of his head, he had it that that he knew he was bisexual, and that he knew that if anyone found that out, he would be looked on as, I wouldn't say like a nutsack,
Mm-hmm.
like a pea. I don't consider peas weak, like people
Mhm.
say, because those things do take a pounding. But I said nutsack because that's very
Mhm.
sensitive. So people would look at him as a punk, you would say, because he did what he did. And I think that that's why he lashed out most of the time so quickly, because it seemed like he went from 1 to 100. If
Mhm.
someone did one little thing, spill a drink on him,
Yes.
he went nuts about it. Like he was like trying to prove to himself that he wasn't, and he used the F word
Mhm.
and talking about gays constantly. And I'm not gonna say it,
Yes.
but I think he was trying to prevent himself from being looked at as that.
Exactly. And with the interview, again, this is a great thing for people to watch. And I am so grateful that I saw it. I looked at it twice, not once just to find out what the story was about, a second time because I just wanted to know more. It was so well done. And there was an interview again with another player. I'm not sure how close they were. And by close, I don't mean like in a relationship, meaning close as a friend, or if they played on the same team. I think they did. That's why there was an interview with him as well. And that man spoke about himself being, him being gay. Like he was, well, in his case, he was talking about himself being gay versus Aaron bisexual. But for that other player, he said that he would do everything possible to, first of all, not make himself look attractive. So in that player's perspective, he was overweight. He made sure to be overweight. He made sure to not look that tidy and not look too clean, just look very unattractive altogether. And coaches were pleading with him, with that other man, to like, please take care of yourself, lose weight, go train. And he was thinking no, because if he actually did look great, and he's a very handsome man. I saw him after, I guess, in that interview when he came out, after he coming out, he was gorgeous. Let's just say really, really handsome. And he said back then he would say no way, because if he looked his best, people will be asking, why aren't you dating, why aren't there women around you? And by being unattractive, he had an answer: because women just don't want me this way. So he was escaping, he was doing everything possible not to get pointed like, what's wrong with you, you're a handsome guy, why aren't there women around you? In case of Aaron, in Aaron's case, he did, like you said, everything possible. If somebody confronted him about something, anything that would make him look weak, he punched. Not literally, well, literally too. He did everything possible to show authority and dominance, and never, ever, ever to be weak or
Yeah,
seen as weak.
and I think that 100% goes back because he was homosexual. And the back is like, it's that same scary feeling that even though people didn't know that about him, he knew that about himself. And he didn't want to be looked at as an F. I'm not no F. I'll beat your ass. You
Mm-hmm.
try to mess with me. And that's what we get. Now, dealing with his kid's mom, who a lot of women I've seen in comment sections say that she was wrong for sticking with him, but dealing this whole situation. But before that, we're going to talk about the kid's mom. Before that, his first trouble that he got into as a professional was when he killed these two guys in the car. He shot them. He had his boy with him, a guy that he eventually tried to kill himself. But these guys didn't really do anything to him in the club. I think I don't know if they spilled a drink on him. I forgot what they did to him, bumped into him. And then he has to come back around and shoot these guys completely dead. And the fear of getting caught from that is what spiraled everything out of control for him, because he really believed that after he did this murder, these two people. Now, Aaron Hernandez was not a gangster. Though his father was gangster and a fighter, you could tell the man was just not gangster. He was not G'd up. He perpetrated like he was. And I believe that he did that was because of his homosexuality, that he just wanted to front. And he just went to extremes with it to prove that he wasn't no bitch or anything like that. So he gets into those two murders. He kills these two people with this guy, with a witness there. He kills these two guys. He gets away with that. Still continues his professional career. And now he gets with his sister, gets with this, his sister's sister gets with this other football player. And they don't say ever why Aaron killed that guy. I don't remember them saying ever the beef between them that made him want to kill this Odin Lloyd. But something made him want to kill this man. Now, a lot of people say, going back to the sister, that the sister was wrong for sticking with Aaron Hernandez through this whole situation. She should have left him. What do you feel about that? Was she right to stay with her kid's father, or would she have left?
So actually, just to make sure, because you mentioned that was the dynamic that that they mentioned, and they showed the court tapes was really chilling because, like you said, Aaron, because they were not married, they were engaged. I think they were not just officially girlfriend boyfriend. They went to the stage of being engaged, and so his fiancée sister was right there. So she chose and this, what was it? Her fiance's sister was dating this guy, and Aaron's fiance took Aaron's side over her sister's side. She didn't say, and I saw in her eyes like she was troubled when they asked her how close are you, or like what's the relationship to the sister, and she said. And she took a good second before she answered. And we could see, like, normally it would be like, oh, yeah, we're close. Or like, oh, no, we're not. But she was troubled. And she said, well, kind of estranged, or however she phrased it. So his fiance, Aaron's fiance, was the only one who stuck around throughout everything. Because it didn't end just in that one trial, because he went to jail. And then there was this other trial, right? And the other trial, only her presence was there. So I guess it helped him being around, or her being around him, because he just had somebody. He didn't completely lose faith in himself because there was somebody always who believed in him. I'm not sure what her motives were. I don't know enough about the case to say, or about them and their relationship, if she was just there to ensure in case, there was this whole settlement thing, that as long as she sticks around, she's going to get the settlement, or however, in the case of players and the contract, or did she really believe in him? I'm not sure what her goal of it was. I don't blame her for being for sticking around. He was known as a great person before. Like, it was said that he wouldn't laugh at other people. He would have other people kind of make jokes about him to make other people laugh. So he was really a great friend from back then, at least in high school and his younger years. So I completely see how she can see him from that, because she grew up with him. I'm not sure how early they were together, meaning as a friends. If it was just high school or already in middle school. But she knew him her entire life.
Yeah, he wasn't a killer. It wasn't like he was this guy going around beating people up since he was a child, picking on people. He was none of these things. Yeah, as you said, he was a nice guy. That's why the guy was not gangster. And you could tell that he's not gangster by every time it was an action, a violent action, he just flipped. It wasn't like he was thinking things out and planning things and conspiring to do things. Because even when he killed this Odin Lloyd, I think his name was Odin, I know that's his first name. That was the stupidest crime in the world. It's like you did it not to get away with it. You know what I mean? Because you killed this man. You killed this man. After you kill this man, you leave the marijuana you were smoking with him at the crime scene, right there. Right? You don't try to dispose of the body in any way. You don't try to dispose of the gun at that particular time in any way. Now, they say that the girlfriend might have disposed of the gun for him. If they have her on tape carrying something out, they're not sure if it was the gun, but they never were able to find the gun. But you could see that he was basically spiraling out of control, because after he killed those first two guys, he got into beef with the guy he was with, and this guy took the stand against him. And you can see, and Aaron shot him in the head and tried to kill him, but he didn't die.
And there were no charges pressed either by that guy.
He wouldn't press charges because he wanted to get it, because this guy was really gangster. The guy he was hanging with. So he was hanging with people that were really gangster, and he was trying to live up to that, even though he was rich. He didn't want to look like no punk. This guy was really gangster. You know what I mean? And this guy was like, I'm not telling on you, bro. I'm coming to take care of you myself. And that's the reason why he got all the security cameras, and that's why he started hanging out with the people he was hanging out with for protection. because he was scared that this guy was going to come back and get him, because he knew that that was a level of gangster that this guy was on. He didn't care that he was Aaron Hernandez. You shot me in the face, you didn't kill me. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to really kill you. So he was really in fear for his life at that particular time. So he got all the security cameras in his house, and it's these security cameras that capture him coming in there with the gun in his hand and on his pocket, walking around the house. And he doesn't even delete the right footage to get away with it. So you can see that there's no gangster, there's no thought to what he was doing. Everything he did, he reacted on pure emotion. Even when he killed the first two people, he put the car inside his cousin's garage and left it there for years.
Yes.
I mean, you could have got rid of that car a long time ago. You could have got that car smacked. You could have got it clean, detailed.
Yes.
You could have got it put in a crusher. Crush your rich. You could have got rid of that car, but you just put it there and just forgot about it, that it was there, because his reactions was all just straight reactions. There was nothing ever planned that he did. I mean, he went out there to kill Odin Lloyd, but he didn't have a plan. Yeah, I'm gonna shoot this guy and kill him.
Yeah.
That's his plan. I'm not gonna, how do I get rid of the body? How do I do this? He's not going through, like, if he was a real killer, that's what real killers, they think about.
They'll be planning, yeah. And he was
They plan out, oh, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take this guy. We're going to do this. We're going to get rid of the body here. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We got it all planned out. And then they go out and execute. Everything he did was pure emotion. It was just pure emotion. And what set him off to kill this Odin Lloyd, I have no idea. They did not
still
really,
a mystery, yeah.
Yeah, they don't mention what he did. But what could have really, I don't know, maybe if that guy caught him in a homosexual act, don't know if that's the case, that would set him off. But it had to be something that he felt like the only way out of this was for him to kill him. And the fact that this guy was connected to his kid's mom and his kid's mom's sister, his personal family, it had to be something that he didn't want them to find out about.
And it's very, very strange because they show that on tapes. Well, not exactly on tapes, because it did happen in their house where Odin, was it Odin? I'm sorry, I forgot. Odin and Aaron were hanging out in the basement in their designated area for just to do their stuff that they did. They would always be there and have fun. Meaning, like, I don't know what kind of drugs they did, but whatever they did them over there. And his fiance, Aaron's fiance, says that there was a designated spot for them, not around the house, anywhere else. So it's not like they didn't know each other. They knew each other, and they were close enough to just hang out and just chill together. And as far as Aaron's lack of wanting to even get rid of evidence or planning everything, we see that whatever he did as a young adult after his father died, after he was living by himself, kind of, well, not by himself, but in a way on his own, everybody covered for him. The shooting, other stuff, the bar fight. There was a bar fight where he beat up, I think, whoever the owner was, or somebody. He beat up somebody, or maybe not beat up, but hit I'm assuming the owner, and something happened to his eardrum, and the owner or whoever that was never pressed charges. So there must have been some kind of deal, because I mean, yeah. That's, you don't mess with football players for whatever reason. Somebody must have done something to appease that person. So this is the impression that Aaron has. Whatever I do, no matter what it is, somebody's going to cover this for me, because I am Aaron, and people got my back.
Yeah, and he's gotten away with everything so far in his life. He's always gotten away with it. The beat ups, he never got in trouble for anything. There was never any consequences for anything. And they all just escalated. I mean, when he got away with the double murder, he must have felt like no one could touch me. I could do whatever I want. But then he realized there was a loose end with this one drug dealer who was with him. So he wanted to take him out just in case. And he didn't get it done. The guy just survived it. Yeah. And if that guy died, he would have got away with 3 murders.
Yeah.
Because he got away with that. He would have gotten away with that. There was no, the guy, even though, if that guy didn't tell on him, they had no idea it was Aaron Rodgers who did it. Aaron Hernandez, I'm sorry. Aaron Hernandez who did it. They had no idea it was him that did it. So he would have got away with 3 murders up until that point. 3 of them he would have been scot-free of, with no one even thinking anything about. And he would have got away with this last one if he didn't get caught for the Odin Lloyd one. He would have never got caught for the first 2.
Yeah.
So he was just living high on the hog. He had a huge contract, an NFL $40 million contract, which for a tight end back then is just an amazing type of contract.
And
So he was just living the life up.
yeah,
He was living the life. It's just what the mystery is really what did he kill this guy over?
oh
Now
yeah.
they were doing a lot of drugs, and he was very much addicted to marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people want to say, "Oh, you can't get addicted to marijuana." The man was addicted to marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like everything he did rotated around him smoking
Yep.
marijuana. Like he had to smoke. They went downstairs in the basement. He played video games. He just had
Mm-hmm.
to smoke. He
Yep.
constantly had to smoke. I mean, it was at the murder scene.
Yep.
Even when he was going to kill someone, he was going to. He had to smoke some weed to get himself in the right. Now it's supposed to be a depressant marijuana. It's supposed to be a downer. It's supposed to keep you relaxed and everything else. But I think I knew people who they didn't smoke marijuana. They got really feisty, really angry.
Mm-hmm.
They're really mean. Like they really needed to have this drug in their body.
Yeah,
And
it's strange because it reacts differently with people. It's not. It should never be just, oh, it's good for everybody, or you're gonna act this way. Some people cannot have it because it's gonna give them a completely different effect.
yeah, and some people just can't handle it. Just because
Mm-hmm.
one person can handle something doesn't mean the
Yep.
next person can handle it. And he was totally addicted to marijuana. And I think that he had depression when he wasn't on it. I think he was, and I think that leads back to, when you do drugs, I think you do drugs for depression reasons. I think it all comes back to depression to me.
Mm-hmm.
And though he had all these things in his life, I don't think he was happy in his life because he truly wasn't living his life that he wanted to live because
Exactly.
he was a bisexual man.
He was living a lie, and I don't think he. Um, Later on, the people who actually lived to tell the tale. His friend, I guess, his past relationship, I forgot his name, and then this other man who was actually just well, gay. He was gay versus Aaron being bisexual. But later on, they said that when they actually came out, it was such a huge relief. This other man, I keep forgetting his name. Not Aaron's partner, but this other guy.
The guy from the offensive lineman that
Yes.
was from New
Yes. So
England.
they were talking about the injuries, and in that's what brought up. That is what is brought up in this series. There is a living a lie, hiding your sexuality, or lying about who you want to be with. Then pressure from parenting and the lack of parent all of a sudden when the parent is gone. But then also the injuries, the head injuries, the trauma that they have, and how it affects the brain and social factors. The frontal lobe and the back over there, that is, I mean, here this develops as the last area to develop, and this, if you keep hitting it, the front of your head, because when you get the shock, the brain just bobbles, like just it's really really bad. It's really bad for you, really bad. So if you have a repeated concussion all the time, and your brain is still developing until age whatever it is, 25, I think, that frontal lobe, you're gonna have some issues. And this man was playing football ever since he was so little. So obviously his brain did not get a chance to develop properly. It was a lot of shock, but also just the entirety of living that lie. That other man, like you said, where his position was, he was considering not even living past whatever. He thought that he didn't think of living long. He just wanted to live big in the moment. He didn't think about his life. So coming out would be like the worst thing for him. Like he would prefer to die than to come out. And then somebody said to him, or I'm not sure what it was, somebody either said to him or he realized it. It's like you are already, I think the psychologists that they were supposed to see back there, kind of like, or would be helpful for them. The psychologist said, you're not the first one and not the second one who is telling me that they are either bisexual or gay. There's more. You're not the only one. So that dude was in shock. Like, wait a minute. I'm not the first one and I'm not the second one. There's more. I'm not the only one here. So there was no awareness of it being okay. Yeah, and that man was fine with dying.
And when you look at the game that they're actually playing, a football game, where there's a bunch of men touching each other, tackling each other, laying on top of each other. I mean, would other men become getting in a locker room, getting naked around each other? And now you're attracted to men. All right, you're gay or you're bisexual, like one of them guys, and you're attracted to men. So you're in the locker room and you see something that you're attracted to. Sometimes you could get an erection and not be able to control it, because if you're looking at someone you're attracted to, and now you're trying to fight that and keep that, inside of you.
Yeah.
Because, because people in the locker room, they think it's a safe space. They're gonna walk around naked. They're gonna do whatever they want to do. But if you're attracted to us, like if you have a guy and you're in a locker room full of women, niggas just walking around and bending over in front of you and doing all this, you're most likely going to catch an erection time to time. Yeah. So, that was probably going through their head all of the time, going through their head and, oh my God, did someone seeing this and seeing that? They could have got teased by it. They could have got caught and got teased. Oh, what's going on there, Jimmy? What's going on, something like that, So, and also when you're a professional athlete, it's kind of like a slave, right? You have an owner that owns the team, and you're there to perform. And even though these games, they're competitive and you enjoy playing them, they will shoot you up with any drug, no matter what injury. And this probably helped him. The marijuana probably helped him with the pain of him dealing with these injuries that he had. And that's what, but they was, like you say, he's a young kid, and they were shooting him up with stuff. He get hurt a little bit, they shoot him up, send him right back out there. They didn't say, hey, you're hurt, don't you take a day off? Not a day, you can take off an hour. Shoot him up, go right back out there. And I'm sure that pain, you may like it. You could get addicted to it. There's a lot of people who get addicted to painkillers and stuff. It can make you feel good. And he probably used the marijuana to offset that. When he didn't have that, he probably used the marijuana to make him feel much better.
And also when he mentioned that at some point, the injections, the knee injections that he was getting, I think he was mentioning that these particular ones were only allowed for players who actually were hurt to the point of actually going to the doctor and having a diagnosis done on them, or being diagnosed with something, and those were legal for them, those injections. He would get them for whatever, because he was Aaron. That's what he said. That's what he recalled in those tapes that he was. And again, this is a great part incorporated. This is a really, really well made short series on it, because it's not just the narration, or not only the interviews of people over there. We see this clips from TV. We see whatever was played live. We see even the recordings of, I guess they are allowed to record any conversations the inmates have with whoever. So they were released. I'm not sure how, but they were released, made public in that series. So we see his voice talking to other people, and obviously we don't see faces because this is just a phone call, not videotaped, but we see, or we hear him say that he was getting it because he was Aaron. That's because of that. Others were not allowed to have it, but he was, and he did not have to feel that pain.
Yeah, they say when you get arrested, and people don't really take it as seriously as they should, but when they tell you and they say to you, anything you say can and will be used against you, that's not just in that moment. That's any time from after they tell you that you speak about anything, they will use it against you if they can. So they record all your conversations on your phone. If you say something to your cell inmate, if you say something to anyone, they're going to use that against you. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to convict you. That's their job. Their job is to get a conviction. That's it. Not to let you go. They're there to convict you. And that's it. So, yeah, he had all those things going on with him. He did a lot of drugs, and it's definitely brain issues there, without a doubt, from traumatic head injury that started, as you said, when he was younger. He definitely wasn't playing with a full deck. But you do see other people who have played the game, maybe they haven't gotten hit as much, that don't go and commit murders. Don't do that. So I do think it may have something to do with that, but it had something to do a little bit more with him being raised and everything. It's just a combination of everything. I think it was just one big powder keg for him that eventually just erupted, that made him the way he was. And in the end, we see that he does take his own life.
That's tragic moment. when all that led up to it, it really, that was in the third part, towards the end. Obviously there were three parts, and I was shocked. I was really shocked because the moments they show leading up to it, I had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah, he takes his own life. Now, there's a couple of reasons. Now, did he take it? Now, he just hired a very famous attorney, all right? And that's the controversy. He just hired a very famous attorney who was very successful in his last case in getting the woman off. And he had gotten Aaron off of these other charges. He had beaten these charges. So it seemed like things were going his way, but yet he still killed himself. Now, did he kill him? I would think if I had to pick why he did it, it was because in that state, if you die before you're convicted, then they can't charge you, say that you, in his contract, they were trying, the New England Patriots did not want to pay him the $40 million. And it was due to the fact that he was arrested and put the Patriots in a bad light. But the fact that he died before he was convicted, all those things are wiped away. So it's like that never happened. So he could have did it just so his child and his kid's mom could have got the $40 million that they were owed. I think most likely that's what was going through his head when he killed himself, that he thought that they would get that money. Exactly. And that's why he took his own life for them in the end, for the one woman who stuck through him the whole time, and the one child that he truly cared. By all accounts, he was a very good father.
Oh, from what we see, and from what we hear, because we hear those recordings, and it's heartbreaking. This man, I would call him young man because he was a young man. Yeah,
he's a baby. He's only in his 20s.
Exactly. So this young man, the way he talked to his daughter, that was just heartwarming. And knowing that we know that he committed suicide, that was heartbreaking. How he was sweet to his kiddo, and when he speaks to somebody. In a recorded line, he says like something about what's the most important thing, that either most important thing in his life or what he's missing currently. And someone said, "Oh, your freedom," and it's like, no, not my freedom. And he says something, no, I miss my daughter, my child. So he said that in his own words, his child, his daughter is the most important thing in his life, and this is not the thing, but this is what he's missing, his child. So I can completely see him wanting to make something for her, to sacrifice himself, so that his child can have a better future with the money. He didn't realize. I mean, he was there for life, so he's not getting out. He cannot be a good father in a way as he would call himself a good father, but obviously there are fathers who are around and who are not good fathers. His conversations, and he would have right to visitation or phone calls. He could be a good father, supporting father, at least emotionally, through that. There are fathers out there who are next to the kid, who are, first of all, not emotionally supportive and just basically abusive. So I'm sure even in prison, it may seem strange, but he could be a good father from prison. But in his eyes, in order to be a good father, you have to, the money part. He wants to be there to support the family.
Yeah. And the fact that they weren't married, the girlfriend wasn't entitled to anything. So I don't know what happened to the home he owned that he was living in, but I would think that would probably, if that got sold, the money would, probably get split between his daughter. But we see the way the mom was when he's in jail. She's asking him for $1 million to set her up. He's trying to get paid while he's in jail, asking her, "Hey, why don't you give
his
me
mother?" Exactly.
Like, you got $40 million. Why don't you give me $1 million so I can be straight for the rest of my life while you're in jail? And that's when he starts flipping out, like, "Yo, you ruined my life. You did this. You did." He flips it out. So you can tell she was greedy. So they sold the house. I'm sure some of it went to the daughter, but I'm sure the mom probably went in and tried to get some of it herself.
Of course,
that's the way she was living.
Yeah.
So he's probably like, the only way I could guarantee that my daughter gets anything. And he didn't, he grew up like he was rich. He grew up in,
just regular. Yeah.
He's a regular person. And he probably wanted to keep her accustomed to the lifestyle that she thought that she was in right then. He was like, I'd just rather just die. I'm worth more dead than I am alive.
But the scary part about it is and I'm not sure what they were going for. I think they wanted us to just formulate our own opinion on it, because the way they ended it was with the why did he commit suicide kind of. First of all, there were two unsolved things in a way in it. Why would he commit the murder of? Because he was acquitted from the second from the first alleged murder of the two people that were killed. So he was cleared of that. For whatever reason, he was cleared of that. But so the mystery remains of why did he murder his fiance's sister's boyfriend? That was one. But then the second mystery is why did he commit suicide? But at first I thought it was the money, but the money aspect. But they did it so cleverly, because they incorporated the clips of that one, not a reporter, but that I think it was a radio show of that one woman who was just, there was a recording of that, whoever she was, a reporter maybe, and the guy on the radio, and they were talking about Aaron, and they were making fun of him. They were making fun of his sexuality, talking about this boyfriend that he has behind bars, and what Aaron was struggling for his entire adulthood, or whenever he was in high school, maybe, I'm assuming, he wanted to hide his sexuality. And there is this person on the radio talking about him, being whatever the names they called, and just making fun of him. That was just a terrible. I'm not sure if he would have access to it, but they showed this entire timeline, which was really well done. Again, they have this tape and they go back and forth to show us how it progressed. So they show the trial when he was acquitted. This is the first time he has some emotions about, like, finally somebody believed me, a lot of relief. Then they showed the reporter being on the radio talking about Aaron's sexuality, and then I think 2 days after, or 2 or 3 days after, Aaron commits suicide. So it's like, okay, why are you doing this? Why are you showing it to us? Are you telling us it's the money, or him being outed as a homosexual or bisexual?
Yeah, he may have not been able to live with the fact that he was gay. He tried to hide that his whole life. They had finally got exposed, and though he could deny it right at that particular time, it could have got him to want to kill himself. That's definitely a reason why, and it's a mystery. No one can give you a definitive reason why, but it's one of the two reasons. Either he got exposed for being gay, or he wanted to save money to try to get this money for his daughter. One of those two reasons. Now, why him and Odin Law, why he killed Odin and felt like he had to kill him, I don't know. You don't know what happened between. I don't know what happened between them. There's no proof that Odin was gay. But we do know that they hung out a lot and they smoke a lot together alone. And we know that if you look at the MO of the other guy that he first was with, that's what they did. They hung out alone together. They did a lot of things together. Now, I don't know if the girlfriends are probably upstairs, but he had his man cave. I don't know if he did something in front of Odin that he didn't want them to find out. It could have been that. It could have been to that point, because he did beat the first murder charges. It seemed like things were going his way. And then all of a sudden he takes himself out. So whether someone had to make him aware of this contract situation of the law in Massachusetts, that, hey, if you die before you convicted, everything is wiped clean. Someone would have had to tell him that in order for him to know that. I don't think he just knew that right off. That's not something that is common knowledge.
Yeah.
But you did know that the Patriots were trying to fight not paying him the money.
Exactly. So it would not be worth for his fiance to kind of, because it would cost her much more than it was worth it, because the Patriots had money to fight her. So it would be kind of like a lost battle. No, probably nobody would want to take her unless it was on the principle, her case, if she had a case.
Yeah, the Patriots would fight that hand over fist to get that money, give him that money. They would do anything they can to not give him that money and stuff, So maybe that's the reason why he did. If I had to pick one the gay thing does seem plausible, without a doubt, that he was so ashamed, because we see when he's in jail talking to his kid's mom on the phone, and they're saying transsexual people in there. The way he talks about them, he's disrespectful. He's like, don't talk about them like that. And he's like, well, why they got to dress up like that? Why they got to act like? It's probably because he was attracted to them.
And he called them things too. And I think she said, "Don't call them things. They're people. They have," and whatever she said. And like, well, yeah, but something, something. He was trying to. He was still playing. So it's not like she didn't know. There was the mother of his child, and I think it was his second girlfriend, which is not a strange thing. I mean, there are people who go their entire life with just a couple of people in their life, but he was, like we said, very successful, and I mean, he was a very handsome guy too. So, and he only had two girlfriends, one in high school, and then the other one in college, and then went back to his high school sweetheart, and just to make it a minimum, and as far as relationships, so that it would not feel not normal.
Or it's a beard, or he was just covering up his sexuality, and that's why he wasn't with it. Because you would say it. Usually, when you're successful, especially if you're an athlete, unless you're very religious, you're sleeping with a bunch of women because they're throwing themselves at you. But as you said, he only had two girlfriends his whole life. You know, there could be a reason why that. Maybe he truly was gay, but he had to have a beard to cover. So he was with these two girls to cover up his homosexuality. And what he called those gay people in prison is how he felt about himself on the inside.
Yeah.
And he was projecting that out. And he didn't want people to see him like that. And that is, in the end, to me, the number one factor of what led him. The hits and everything else had something to do with it. But it's him not being able to live the life he truly wanted to live as a homosexual man, a bisexual man, and be accepted by it that actually led him to the end of his story. And how I myself, I'm not going to look at it. The story itself is tragic, but I can't look at him as a tragic situation because I know some people probably can. I personally can't because the man was, I want to say, he had the talent. He was blessed with a skill that a billion people would have loved to have. It wasn't like he had to work hard. That's what they say. He didn't work hard for this. It was there. He was just naturally gifted.
Yep.
And he threw away all those gifts that he was given and ended up in the position that he ended up. How would you describe the Aaron Hernandez story? As a tragic story or just someone who just blew it?
The story itself, it's a tragic story, but he did blow. he blew it. He definitely did. He was given so much opportunity. He had so much talent. Things that I'm not saying he didn't have to work on stuff, but for some people, when they flex muscles a couple times, they get nothing. Other people, their muscles build up quicker because they're just predisposed to it, genetics. And he was working on stuff, but if he actually worked on it, and if he paid attention, if he had goal in mind and was actually working towards a goal and kept his head where it should be, he would not have ended up like this. But also, behind this tragedy, behind this tragic story in general, there is I guess two things that come out of it that I see as I guess I'm seeing positive things. But he was his life was sacrificed for it. Well, he did it himself. Nobody did it for him. Whatever he did it to himself with the stuff that he had going on. But two things kind of came out from it after I looked at the entirety of it was the awareness of the deterioration of the brain and the injuries, and how I think he even donated his brain to science, from what I remember hearing over there, for people to study what actually happens. And the lady who's the doctor who showed the brain, regular normal brain, and Aaron's brain, it was not a brain of a guy in his 20s. It was more like, towards the end of the life. It was a brain heavily affected by the trauma of the sport. So that was one thing that came out of it, the awareness of, yes, this has an effect on people, and this is what we see. This was a huge story that kind of led it to that conclusion, to actually have a spotlight. But then the second thing that came out of it was that it was okay to come out as bisexual or as gay, homosexual, whatever your preferences are. It's okay to come out. And one of the players who we see the interview from, he was he was gay. He said himself that he's gay. He actually got a phone call after coming out to his parents. After that, he got a phone call from the owner of the team, or I'm not sure how it goes, from the person who's on top within that team, congratulating him on coming out. Like I can just imagine the relief on him. First of all, you come out to your parents, and he was kind of laughing about it, saying his mother thought that he's going to say that he has some cancer or something, that he's dying. And his mother was relieved. Oh, you're gay? That's fine. It's okay. She was relieved that her son is not dying. And to him, it was like, whoa, you're okay with this? He was in shock that she was okay with it. And she was happy that he's alive. That's what his mother thought. So those two things come out that I see them: brain injuries, awareness of that, and then the acceptance of coming out to whoever you are.
Yeah, and hopefully the people who watch that, and young kids or adults or anyone who watches that, and just live your life. You have one life to live. Don't worry about society. Don't worry about anyone. Anyone who's willing to make fun of you and not be a part of your life because you want to live like that doesn't need to be in your life. The people who truly care about you, the people who truly matter, they're the ones who will accept you for whatever you are, and that's all you have to worry about. There's always going to be haters in the world. There's always going to be trolls on Twitter. There's always going to be stuff made up. Gross, don't worry about it. Just do your thing. Live your life. Let those people live in their misery, because that's all they are, is miserable. That's why they have to project that misery onto you, because they're so miserable. They want you to be that miserable too. And they could be people who are closeted themselves and putting it out there like that, because that's usually how we see him. You seen it with Aaron Hernandez? That's usually who those people are. The people who make fun of people like that are usually those people, and they're just scared that they're just mad that those people are living their life. And you can see Aaron was probably mad when he was like, why are these people, like when he's seeing the transsexuals in jail, he's like, why are they flaunting around? Why are they acting like that? He probably wishes he could be that open with himself, that he could be that free as they are, and he's assuming that this is the way people are talking about them because he's talking about them that way. But he doesn't know that for fact, because if people really were talking about them that way, they didn't care. They still lived their life, and they still were doing their thing in jail, and that's it.
Yep.
So, very tragic story, but I will say that, not really tragic, Aaron Hernandez story itself, but not for him. It was a very well done Netflix documentary. On a scale of 1 to 10, LMR, how do you rate this documentary?
Oh, I've seen a couple, and I have to say I'll give it a 9, because it spoke to me. It spoke to me from a psychological perspective, and as a family person and as a mother, I loved it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 9 too on this, Laying and Dying. Both give it a 9. And as always, this is the first podcast of the year. Thank you for everybody who watched this podcast on YouTube and who's listening to this podcast. Please subscribe to the Laying Down podcast, and you can take it on the road with you and listen to it in your car and everything else. We need a lot more subscribers so we can keep going. We're going to be more consistent about it. That was all due to me, not LMR, but trust me, we're going to be more consistent at uploading videos and podcasts for you. Not all of them will be out on YouTube, so you definitely want to be subscribe to the podcast itself, because we will not do all the videos, put them all out on YouTube. This one's the first one of 2020, so that's why we're putting this out there. So please subscribe also to the Teflon TV channel and LMR Living My Rhapsody YouTube channel. LMR, as always, thank you for having me as your partner. I truly appreciate you putting up with me.
I love it. I love every minute of it, Tony. It's a pleasure every time.
And until next time, you know who it is. Peace. And stay sexy.